Hello and welcome to the Kongversation Mini. I'm Hyle Russell.
I am Chad McCanna. Thank you once again to Matt Corna for that theme tune.
Yes. Thank you, and thank you to the Ape Raper for recording it.
Well, yes, of course. I mean, it's a collaboration, really.
So basically what this is and what we'll be doing, starting with this episode, is we're going to be doing these mini bite-sized episodes whenever news breaks or we just have a tangent we want to go off on.
So naturally, since we've been disciplining ourselves for a whole 2 episodes to be around 90 minutes, we have a lot of pent-up tangent.
We do. So our very first episode, this is going to be the first off-topic episode ever of the Kongversation, but it's a mini episode, so, you'll get a regular episode this week as well. But if you are a longtime listener of the show, you'll know that Chad and I are fans of the 1990s hit serialized drama from the Fox network, The X-Files.
Thanks for all those qualifiers, so you really set the stage. I don't think fan is the right way to describe. I think that you and I are engaged in an on-again, off-again, borderline abusive relationship with The X-Files.
Yeah, well, okay, The X-Files, really, after Twin Peaks, and you can go back further and say, well, The Prisoner was the first TV show to really incorporate. Okay, but as far as the modern era of television, I think Twin Peaks got the ball rolling. But actually, as far as capturing the mainstream's attention and really setting the stage for what television has become, I think we owe a lot of it to The X-Files.
Yeah,
and
the lesson learned from Twin Peaks was we love David Duchovny, but not as a cross-dresser.
Right. Yeah, we love David Duchovny with weird sexual kinks, but a little bit more white bread, please.
Just a porn addiction.
So, The X-Files, there's nothing like it in the 90s, and of course it's been outdone and outclassed, I would say numerous times, but I don't think we would have shows like Lost, Battlestar Galactica, Breaking Bad, even, without The X-Files. And so we're still huge fans of it, although I think the latter seasons and the most recent movie definitely left a sour taste in our mouth. So when we found out they were bringing back The X-Files for 6 episodes, which, by the way, is what I have been saying since, I think, 2005 they should be doing.
What's that?
Bringing back The X-Files is like a limited run miniseries or something. Because
I thought you meant like specifically 6 episodes. Like you're the fucking Nostradamus here.
No, I was saying it could be 6 episodes because I felt like I didn't care about seeing another movie because you're not going to really lay much groundwork with a new movie. You're going to get a complete waste of time like we did with the last movie.
Yeah. There wasn't even anything confirmed paranormal in The X-Files Part 2. It was, oh god, the less said about that film the better, because we only have 30 minutes ish to
we did learn pedophile priests are magic, and so which by the way
potentially magic, Hyle.
Which, by the way, pedophile priests are magic is my least favorite My Little Pony spinoff. Although very popular with the fan base.
It's kind of a chicken or the egg situation with that spinoff.
But no, because I really wanted. Look, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who are listening to this tangent episode just because you're Kongversation regulars and you have no interest in the subject matter.
There's no Donkey Kong here. Turn it off if if the X-Files is of no interest to you.
I'll bring it back to Donkey Kong at the very end, I promise.
Boy, I look forward to that.
But
is he a character in iDarb?
Yeah, Fox Mulder.
Fox Mulder, yeah.
Actually, we should make the lone gunman in iDarb. That would be nice. Hashtag IDARB. For more on that, stay tuned for later this week. But
I call the ghost of Byers.
We don't even know if Byers is dead. We'll see.
Yeah.
But the X-Files ended basically in 2002 with Fox Mulder discovering that the planned alien colonization would happen on December 21st, 2012. Because
which is the end times as predicted by the Mayans. Which is a dubious claim in and of itself, but yeah.
Turns out it didn't happen, both in the show and in real life. But
right.
So I really wanted, before 2012 or on 2012, I wanted a 6-episode miniseries that would properly resolve the X-Files.
Or even ideally, I would say a motion picture as released as like a holiday release, you know?
Yeah, but again, my thing was you could do more with 6 episodes, and I think would be more true to the show's narrative structure with 6 episodes. Because the movie...
Fight the Future is a fantastic film, and I know that there are
It's a good film. It's a good film.
Oh, I think Fight the Future, the first film released in '98, I think.
Yeah.
Between seasons 5 and 6 was the blending of the monster of the week and mythology. The monster of the week of that film was the
corn.
What's that?
It was corn.
Right. It was bumblebees. No, it was the alien itself, but it was like a more a devolved black oil version of the alien. So it was the melding of the two storytelling styles of the show, which was brilliant.
Yeah, and it was also kind of the money shot because for 5 years we'd only gotten slight glimpses of the Greys. So to see one, like, I guess it was still a slight glimpse, but he fucking gutted a guy, so that was cool.
Yeah. And then in the next season they would be playing baseball openly.
The baseball episode was good. I will defend the baseball episode. It had the Marshal from Lost.
It did, yeah. And I think that one was written by Duchovny, actually.
It was, yeah. That was Duchovny's first before Hollywood AD, which the less said about that one, the better.
That was the one with the dancing zombies, right?
Dancing zombies and a lot of like religious symbolism. And
and the best scene in the history of the X-Files, the 3-way bathtub phone call with Skinner, Mulder, and Scully.
I did like seeing Walter Skinner in a bubble bath. But anyway. We're just reminiscing about the good times. We've got to get to this new season. So,
yeah.
We've discussed this on a Kongversation proper. I was looking forward to it because one way or another we would have new X-Files to discuss, and we could introduce new memes into our off-topic discussions.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to rely on Ray's whale song or, various other things we constantly harp on. Scully using Google to figure out how to do stem cell research.
Yeah, or Krychek's gambit with Skinner, in which all I have to do is push this button and your blood
will explode. Yeah. Which, by the way, they never said your blood will explode, but
I know.
That's a joke that Chad and I think we incorporated that in Elvis. Oh no, we didn't.
We wanted to.
That was in our script for Shades of Grey, the series, which maybe we'll share that at some point. But
oh yeah, we wrote 3 full episodes of that thing. So
two, and we had plans for the third, but.
Okay, it was like outlined at least. Anyway,
yeah, I remember because I wrote them. I wrote them. I put pen to paper there. But okay, so I was looking forward to this. You were apprehensive as hell, but I think as we got closer, you got more excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Well, I started seeing some of the media. There was this like 21-minute thing that like. They used to do these with movies, like the Fox network. I remember when the X-Files movie was coming out in '98, they put together this like half-hour primetime preview of the movie.
Yeah, they used to do it with Batman movies too, like the Burton and Schumacher Batman movies. It's very '90s. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of cool to see. It makes no sense in this era of media consumption, but I guess if you're bringing back such a something that defined the 90s as much as the X-Files, it's kind of cool to see just as a one-time throwback.
Yeah, so here's my theory. I think 1013 Productions, which I don't believe has been very active in a while, they were kind of operating in that mode, so they probably shot a lot of material for this kind of a featurette, and then once it was created, they sort of realized there's no television venue for this, so it kind of got unceremoniously dumped on YouTube a few weeks before.
They did air it on Fox tonight at 7:30.
Oh, did they? Okay, they did something after it had been consumed on the internet, where everyone goes to watch things now.
Yeah, I think my first complaint about this endeavor is that it shouldn't be on the Fox network. It feels like this should be something on Netflix, or it feels like this is just it's people who don't. It's being made by people who don't understand the way television has evolved, especially genre television, television that's supposed to have, auteur television. It's either on cable channels or the internet, and not really network TV. But whatever.
Yeah, but anyway, I was so I watched a few minutes of this out of morbid curiosity because I've been
I watched it all, and I linked it to you and trying to get you to watch it, and you went spoiler free.
I watched a bit of it, and I got just to the point where they started describing specific plot points, but by that point I had already seen imagery of Mulder in a suit and tie, like a lot of very simple, but coming off of the second film, which was just an unmitigated disaster. Like they solved the case in sweatpants, and it was terrible.
They were comfortable though. They were comfortable.
That's true. And you want to stay warm. There was a lot of traipsing through the snow in that movie.
I think that's the ultimate truth: is comfortable shoes and pants.
Right. Yeah. That's a philosophy shared by the continuing Indiana Jones franchise as well. But no, I was watching a bit of that, and it started to look kind of good, but I was getting encouraged to a point at which I wanted to go in as fresh as possible. So I approached it last night, Sunday, and tonight as we're recording, Monday night, with a sense of apprehensive optimism.
As did I. I have to admit, and it's very old school because Fox preempted it for football. So
right,
it took me right back to the 90s, man.
Yeah,
it was like, oh, Futurama's on right now, and that's not on at all.
Boom!
It's not on at all because it's football, and we're just going to go straight to the X-Files.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was me like sitting at home with my VHS tape ready to watch Futurama, just fuming.
So yeah, well, I let's just get into it because I don't know, like, I don't think we even need to recap it in a Kongversation mini. It's
no. I have whiplash after these two nights.
Yeah, because let's explain. Because they aired the debut episode Sunday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, and then immediately followed it up with the regular time slot Monday night at 8 p.m. And I think they scheduled it like this because they knew the first episode was a flaming pile of shit.
Oh my god! This is now. I've read a lot of reviews since last night, and people are giving it kind of middling praise, saying things like
Gibson praise.
Yeah, middling was the other key to everything. They're giving it kind of like, okay, it wasn't great, but hey, at least it's fun watching these characters. No, it was a disaster.
It was one of the worst things I've seen. Okay, I've seen a lot of bad X-Files in my day.
We've watched them all. We've watched the Burt Reynolds episode
numerous times. Yeah, the Saf's avatar on the DK Vine forum is from the Burt Reynolds episode, the promotion for the Burt Reynolds episode.
Yeah.
It's just Burt Reynolds, and it says, I forget how it goes.
Oh, a killer is playing a game of numbers. Burt Reynolds guest stars. Only 5 original episodes left.
7. It was 7 at that point.
7.
Yeah. Yeah. 5 episodes out, the gunman died. So yeah, I remember. I hold that close to my heart.
That's when the series truly jumped the shark.
At least they brought Jimmy Bond back.
Mm-hmm.
This was, I want to say incomprehensible, but I comprehended what they were trying to do. It just made no goddamn sense.
Obviously the first episode back has a mission statement on a meta level. You know, if this is kind of a soft, not reboot, it's just like a soft reset. You know, they want to.
It was too hard of a reset, man. That's okay.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That was the objective of this episode, is to give Mulder and Scully a decent reason to put on suits and go chase down crazy shit.
Okay, and I've got to be honest with you. We neglected, besides some furious text messages to each other, we neglected to actually discuss this episode because we wanted to do it on this show.
Yeah,
save it for the show, as we say. But I had a lot of pent up anger and venting to get out, so I actually went to the AV Club's website and posted in the comment section there numerous times last night.
Oh my!
Just getting, so you can go see my comments on there. I'm Slush. I have the evil acorn avatar.
Are you? Is this on the X-Files review?
Yes, for the first episode, which, by the way, is called My Struggle, which translates to Mein Kampf in German.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do with the German translation of that one. Like, I know it's a direct reference, but I don't think they're going to take that too kindly over there.
Well, Mulder's Jewish. Like, how is that?
It's a very, and also it's evocative of Scrubs, so it's strange in that way, and it's a wonder that Scrubs never used this title.
I remember that episode where JD gassed the Jews. That was not very tasteful.
But like Mulder, JD's a Jew.
Yeah, I guess that's I don't know. Fucking Scrubs, man.
But it really should have been, like those once a season episodes. It should have been called Our Struggle, because the title doesn't even make sense. Who are they referring to? Glenn Beck or
here's the thing: the finale, the episode 6, is also titled "My Struggle." So
is it really?
Yeah.
Like
so
part 2 or just the same title?
So I think it's like Scully's struggle. I don't know.
Okay. So the first episode is it's like it's Mulder's struggle, and the next one, whatever. This is the depth of Chris Carter being clever. Like,
okay. So here's what I typed up in the AV Club. I'm not going to read it verbatim. Go there to read my thoughts on that. But I feel like Chris Carter has. Okay. Here's my thesis on Chris Carter, real quick. Mm-hmm. He is the George Lucas of the X-Files, in that he's an okay idea man. He thought up this world. He's actually, if you go back and look at the mythology of the first 9 seasons, there's kind of a mad genius behind it. The execution leaves a lot to be desired, but the story is kind of just like carnival barking mad, and I love it.
There was a kind of a mad genius to, I'd say, the first 5 up to the movie. That was kind of, to me, the golden era of the X-Files, and then they just kind of kept feeling like they were stretching the mythology to fill the seasons.
Okay, but I rewatched it all a couple years ago, and it actually all holds together as one narrative. Okay. They stretch it out way too long, and I would argue the super soldier stuff wasn't necessary.
Right.
But it still holds up as part of this grander arc. It does.
Oh, and they did make, to their credit, and maybe we were just taking that for granted, they did make an effort to make it connect and make it make sense, even if it, failed in some respects. Right.
So, but that's the first 9 seasons. I mean, so Chris Carter is the George Lucas in that he is a terrible writer, terrible executor of his ideas, but when translated through other minds, it's not bad. So, and I think that was on display these past 2 episodes, both sides of the coin.
Well, I think that I wouldn't say so much that episode 2, which I think, we'll get into it, but we both find it quite a bit more favorable. That wasn't even Chris Carter's ideas echoed through someone else. I think by this point, those other writers have just as much ownership over the world of the X-Files as Chris Carter does.
Oh yeah, Chris Carter was on the beach catching waves at that point.
Yeah, he came up with the premise, which was great. But as the series evolved, I think that his contributions became the weaker and weaker elements.
Yeah, and it's with any of his creations. I know you haven't watched the show Millennium as much as I have, but the second season, Chris Carter took a step back as he was making the X-Files movie, and that's the season that's brilliant. And then he came back for the 3rd season, and it tanked. So
okay, so let's get back to talking why the first one was a fucking train wreck.
The first one, yes. So basically, my theory, fundamentally why it was bad, was it was a mad rush, 44 minutes to set up the old status quo. We had to get everything set up exactly like it was. Yeah. Mulder and Scully working in the FBI under 80s Walter Skinner.
Right.
The thing is, that undermines the whole first 9 seasons, the finale, and even the second movie. There's no way Fox Mulder would go back and work for the FBI, the same people who tried him for murder on fake charges. They were responsible for so much misery in his and Scully's lives.
And the second movie was a very confusing, just kind of whirlwind of pedophile priests and nonsense. But did they explain why they're no longer trying to capture Mulder as a fugitive of military justice?
They gave it an offhand line. Scully says, "I don't think they really care about you anymore, Mulder. They're just glad you're out of their hair."
He's a murderer, according to them. You don't just decide, Steve Avery should be so lucky. Jesus Christ.
Right, and you just don't make people FBI agents again after 16 years. Don't they have to take, fitness tests? Don't they have to take, aptitude tests? Wouldn't this be, this I don't know how it works, but I imagine it would take longer than like a week. Okay, you're an FBI agent again, even though we tried you for murder and tried to execute you. All's forgiven.
You know, Hyle, Quantico is really loosey-goosey with quote-unquote rules.
Yeah, well, under Obama.
Oh, yeah, by the way, Obamacare. I love these contemporary references that it's like they want someone in the future to not mix up the two versions of the show. Like
it's like they're trying way too hard to be contemporary, and that was where it fell apart for me. Okay, so they bring in Glenn Beck as a character.
Yes.
Kind of a hybrid of Alex Jones and Glenn Beck. But
played by Joel McHale. We're gonna refer to him as Glenn Beck because that's who he is.
Yes. So Glenn Beck comes in. He contacts he hosts this InfoWars type show online.
Right.
And
which is basically what Glenn Beck is doing these days.
He has the Blaze. Yeah. So but
they're not even trying to like make a thinly veiled caricature. Chris Carter just literally wrote Glenn Beck into a show.
So Glenn Beck, this Glenn Beck has an interest in ufology, and he marries it to all these right wing conspiracies, which doesn't work at all because the ufology conspiracies of the 1990s, we were there. It was fun. It was like imaginative, but it was also nonpartisan.
To an extent. To an extent, I think that there are some ways in which they could have kind of made it work because, you know, extreme right wing has a mistrust of the government, as does Agent Mulder. I mean, there are a lot of, you know, core kind of like Tea Party style fundamental you know, small government ideals wrapped up into the texture of Mulder's conspiracy mongering. There was a way that they could have done it and make it make sense. But this was not that.
They tried to, by having Glenn Beck try to befriend Mulder, and ultimately befriend both Mulder and try to bed Scully.
What the hell?
Yeah,
Did they forget that they tried to have Scully go on a few dates in the first season, and it was just extremely tonally dissonant from the rest of the show?
Yeah, but man, I hope he had, as I said on the AV Club, I hope he had a whole chalkboard filled up with ways to fuck Scully.
Yeah, and then he flips it over and it's position brainstorming.
Yeah. So, They try to give lip service to, Mulder hates him because he's extreme right wing, and in these various montages we're gonna do, there's like 3 clip montages of like various like news footage to try to justify these insane free-form conspiracy theories.
And they're not even good clip montages. They're like half-rate YouTube. Like the aspect ratios are just a complete mixed bag.
Yeah.
X-Files is known for its cold open droning monologues, especially in the season opening and Ender, like the multi-parters that Chris Carter was usually more involved in. This is definitely one of his hallmarks, but 3 of them, and it's just like a bunch of shitty stock footage. It's not even. And there was even one in the episode later on, one of the monologues where that Glenn Beck and Mulder must have rehearsed because they back and forth, you know.
Oh yeah. There was I could see them like in Mulder's kitchen or whatever, like saying, okay, now you'll say this. They had a PowerPoint, presentation.
And Mulder's like, I know Scully. She's going to sigh and look dejected in this moment. That's when you come in.
Right. But they tried to keep it like, because I could see, the concern, well, we're just playing into the right-wing conspiracies of today, which, but so they threw in like footage of Bush to keep it like even-handed. It didn't work.
Right.
And here's the thing though.
They also, but in that montage, not only did they show clips of Bush, when they were talking about Roswell, they showed clips from the episode that we had watched about 15 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
There were clips from the same episode. We do not need to have a flashback to that.
And by the way, like I was into ufology when I was like a teenager. So I like when they show like footage of the Kenneth Arnold sightings of the flying disc.
Yeah.
There was never any footage of that. He just reported it. They just CGI'd like flying saucers into this old footage and tried to pass it off as actually a historical like event. Anyway, so but that's not really here or there. But yeah, so my problem with it was, okay, so you're going to marry contemporary right-wing paranoid conspiracy theories to the X-Files. Yeah. That would be like if the original show had Hillary murdering Vince Foster as a major plot point in like season 4. Like Vince Foster knew the truth about the black oil, so Hillary had to like it doesn't work because this stuff actually influences public debate today.
Yeah. It didn't happen in a vacuum. Like you need to, and especially a lot of the events from the TV show were kind of off in a parallel reality at this point.
Right.
I feel like one of the fundamental problems of revisiting the X-Files at this point is that they're working with scorched earth.
They are, and also, like, I feel like the whole, like, new age ufology, aliens, let's Roswell, that whole thing kind of petered out around 9/11, which is when the show ended, the season that 9/11 occurred. So I wish they would have addressed it more that, nobody really cares about this shit anymore. Like Mulder, referenced it like offhand. Oh, our life work is a joke now, Scully.
Yeah.
But
which is interesting. That's what I think Jurassic World did this summer very successfully.
Really?
That was the whole idea. Like, dinosaurs are kind of passé these days, and it was sort of a dig at how seeing a dinosaur on the big screen is passé. And it was this really kind of intelligent metatextual thing for Jurassic Park 4, of all places to really be examining its place in cinema history at the same time as you're depicting dinosaurs rampaging around a park. It was kind of interesting, and it was a good example of what they could have done with this. But
it good Lord.
Okay, so let's walk through the plot. So, such that there is, and I gave you this challenge last night to tell me what the plot was.
Then can I do it, or do you want to do it?
Please.
Okay.
I want to see you make sense of what was depicted that night.
Okay, so we flash back to the Roswell crash in 1947, which, by the way, they've always referred to the Roswell crash in the original show and in this episode as a smokescreen, a hoax. It wasn't really what it was made out to be. There were bigger alien recoveries than Roswell. But, okay, here's Roswell. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
And then we see that flash forward. Mulder's still living in that dinky house from the second movie. Scully's left him, but she's still working in that Catholic hospital, which has which has appeared in every episode now. Of the revival, and then
it's the key to it all.
It's the key to it all.
The key to everything.
AD Walter Skinner calls Scully before she's about to enter surgery, even though she's not a surgeon, but whatever.
She's better at operating on corpses than living humans.
And basically,
I want to see. I would have liked. You remember that in Bad Blood when they showed her doing the autopsy
with the entrails,
the entrails kind of sliding out of the tray. I hope that was like part of her resume. Like her interview process.
Did autopsy on vampire victim.
Right.
So Glenn Beck calls the FBI. He wants to talk to Mulder. So Skinner calls Scully to get in touch with Mulder. They arrange a meeting. Glenn Beck says, I know about your work somehow, even though it's all classified. Don't know how he would know about it. I want to show you this girl named Feta.
Sveta.
I'm going to call her Feta.
Okay.
So
that wouldn't be the only socially tone deaf thing in this 2-episode run, but
she's got scoop marks out of her. The son from Raisin Bran that got 2 scoops out of her chest.
Oh, there were a few more than 2. Yeah,
I know. But which, by the way, has never appeared in any legitimate alien abduction cases.
And Mulder just sort of oh, I see you have scoop marks.
No. There's never been scoop marks. The original series at least stayed accurate to actual reports. Like they never really went off the reservation too much when it came to that. So I don't know what
the mark under the back of the neck, which had the chip that if you remove it gives you cancer.
Which I mean, I don't know about the cancer thing, but the rest is from legitimate alien abduction. So
Chris Carter was one of the very early mission statements of the show was to be influenced by actual reports, at least to the extent, and obviously they evolved away from that as the show went on. But the pilot of the show actually, it started with a title card influenced by actual events.
Right. But anyway, so Feta has 2 scoops taken out of her like Raisin Bran, and so she was abducted by aliens, and they took her baby. Now Scully's interested. Scully's interested because she had a baby that had some sort of powers that were maybe alien. I don't know, but Mulder's like, this girl is the key to it all. She's the key to it all.
There's
Despite
so
the
many
fact,
keys to everything.
Despite the fact that we've met like 13 alien abductees, including Mulder and Scully, both abducted by aliens.
Right. And what's so great is that, like, as soon as Mulder, reveals that his theory is extraterrestrial in origin, Scully looks so pissed off.
Right. Despite the fact that Scully was a true blue believer at the end of season 9, she has
Not
no
even the end of season 9. At the end of season 7, she gave that whole report to Congress or whatever when she's like, she gave the often repeated line, I left a promising career in medicine, and I have been convinced that there is a conspiracy within our government. And they're like, where is Agent Mulder? And he shows up and says, I'm right here. You remember that amazing moment?
I don't know if that was season 7, but it was, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And, wait, no. The end of season, that was the end of season 6, because the end of season 7 is when Mulder was abducted.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, so whatever. Scully's...
but she'd been converted for a while, is my point.
Right, so Scully's a skeptic again, and it turns out she left Mulder because he was depressed. And they never explain, like, the 2012 thing, why it never happened. I would have liked to have seen Mulder suffering clinical depression because the end of the world didn't happen, and it makes his life work look like a joke. Like, what happened? I fully believe this.
And right. I mean, that was the thing. He was always so driven. Like, he wouldn't that's not Mulder. He wouldn't just stop. We had always said, like, Mulder should be, after the gunman died, he should have taken up the Lone Gunman newspaper, and that would have been a fantastic catalyst to, he's still in this world. He's chasing his obsession more than ever, and that's the reason Scully leaves him. Well,
and that's what I think the show should have been. It shouldn't have been, we're going to reopen the X-Files in the FBI. It seems silly and laughable.
Yeah, right.
What it should have been was a Glenn Beck reaches out to Mulder and wants him. Mulder's depressed, directionless after 2012 didn't pan out. Scully's left him. Glenn Beck comes. Mulder hates him, but Glenn Beck says, "I will fund your investigations. I will give you money. I will give you access. Come work with me." The X-Files will become like a show on the Blaze or whatever.
And I don't know about that part, but I even love how it dovetails into, crazy right-wing things. So, like, I'm privatizing the X-Files.
Yeah, that would have been great. That would have been great. And then suddenly Glenn Beck becomes the employer you can't trust. What are Glenn Beck's? And if you want to bring Skinner into it, Skinner can be Mulder's shadowy informant that he meets.
Yes. Oh God, that would have been fantastic. Instead, like, he's the X or the Deep Throat or the Marita Covarrubias,
the guy on the
role.
inside supplying you information. Yeah,
that's amazing.
What would the X-Files be like if Mulder was a blogger? And he didn't have official government access. He had to, like, you would have to really, like, stretch your creative writing muscles, but it would be so much more interesting and contemporary.
He really focuses his blog on search engine optimization, but mostly to get Scully's attention.
Scully loves search. She did search. She did do. It wasn't a Google search. It was what was it?
It was like an Alta Spider search or something like that.
It was Finder Spider.
Finder Spider.
I was like, come on, you had Google in the last movie. You're telling me you. All right.
Ask Jeeves is a more realistic search engine name than Finder Spider. Like, it's.
Anyway, so Mulder goes to see this man-made alien replica vehicle. And by the way, the scientist, the Asian scientist, he's already been in the X-Files and the Lone Gunman 3 times. The actor.
Yeah. Has he now?
Yeah.
Has 3 different characters?
Yeah. So this is his 4th appearance in this universe. He's now tied with Terry O'Quinn.
I was going to say, they call that doing an O'Quinn.
Yeah. Because Terry O'Quinn has appeared 4 times as different characters. Anyway.
If you believe the Tommy Westfall universe, 6.
So, so then he goes back to see Feta. And Feta says, "Oh, I was lying before. Aliens didn't take me. It was just a bunch of men." And then Mulder just completely abandons everything he ever believed.
Right. We, the audience, not only have seen over the course of 9 seasons, but literally just saw in the Roswell flashback.
Okay.
We now know that our protagonist is going in the wrong direction. Which
we don't though, because the new conspiracy, as laid out by Glenn Beck and Mulder in their PowerPoint presentation to Scully, heavily rehearsed and choreographed, they ended it with jazz hands.
Right.
Is that okay? So everything we had seen in the X-Files before was a lie. All 9 seasons and the first movie were a lie.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess it was a mass hallucination of the audience.
Aliens did crash at Roswell. They started visiting Earth after we set off the bombs in World War II.
Yeah.
But aliens crashed. They were actually benign. We stole their technology, and the elites, the top 1%, decided to destroy Earth with global warming. I'm not really clear on this plot point. Either global warming that's just happening naturally
to make oil money. That was a point.
Okay.
They wanted oil money.
But basically, the top 1% is faking alien colonization. Like, there's different layers of the conspiracy now. Like, they mentioned a syndicate in the latest episode, so I know they haven't abandoned
let's not mix up. You're describing scenes from a completely different show.
I know, but this is a Kongversation mini, Chad, and we got to get things rolling. And,
yes.
Wrap it up in 15 minutes.
Wrap up the plot, and then I'll tell you one of the fundamental things wrong with this episode besides the plot.
Okay, so anyway... it turns out that Mulder and Glenn Beck now believe, in like a matter of minutes, they just completely believe this, that the top 1% is going to abandon Earth, and the 99% to live on a dying planet while they live on the Trump Hotel in space. And they're going to use alien technology to do that, and also steal our guns, and they're going to make people think aliens are invading, but it's actually going to be the top 1%. And apparently the syndicate was duped. They thought they were working for alien colonization, but there's an even deeper conspiracy. I don't know.
It does. It none of it holds water though.
If
you have ever even been aware of X-Files in the pop culture, you know that it doesn't hold water.
It doesn't work. And they even reference the faceless rebels in this episode when Mulder is meeting with Amish McBeardy Man, his new informant. Because
the guy who they make it seem like we the audience should be very familiar with this character.
right. So Amish,
you've always told me throughout the years that if I needed help, I could come to you. It's like, we don't know this person.
It reminded me of Max von Sydow's character in The Force Awakens, the guy Poe Dameron meets in the beginning. You're like, wait, who are you? Who are you?
Yeah, it's for me, it's like the Firefly movie Serenity. They introduced this character, Mr. Universe, who it was same thing. He's treated like the entire crew of the Serenity know him. But he was a character earmarked for the season 2 that was never made.
Right.
And so they just kind of crammed him into the movie kind of awkwardly. But this doesn't even have the benefit of that. This character was never planned.
No, Amish McBeardy Man even scoffs because he said, "Are you going to bring up faceless rebels again in an alien civil war? That was a bunch of bunk." And I was like, "No, it was. We saw the faceless rebels. Are you saying that was just this this
we
hoax?
saw them constantly. No, it was just government people in masks.
Yeah. What is the government's makeup budget? This is like Lost season 2, where we start to learn that the others are just wearing prosthetic beards. Like, no, no.
This is how they do tryouts for the sci-fi show Face Off. They do this very specific, strange makeup on government people.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what the conspiracy that Mulder believes and Glenn Beck believes now. And then the government people come for Feta and Glenn Beck, and Glenn Beck's internet show gets taken down, which would never happen in real life.
YouTube pulls the plug.
So because of all that, Skinner calls. Oh, and Scully learns that she has alien DNA, even though Mulder is confirmed to have alien DNA because the black oil infected him, and that was the original source for William. Because we learned that because Mulder had alien DNA that was killing him, but was fixed when he was cured of his super soldier syndrome. He knocked up Scully, and Scully had a part alien baby because of Mulder's alien sperm.
But that baby was. There were also Christ allegories because that baby was going to be the savior of mankind, and the lone gunman brought him gifts.
Right. But I'm just saying, okay, so Scully learns she has alien DNA from her possibly human abduction, but we know Mulder has alien DNA, so big fucking deal.
Exactly.
But anyway, so Skinner calls up Scully and says, or Mulder and Scully and says, "Hey bitches, I'm reopening the X-Files, even though the people over my head said we had to close them in 2002. But fuck that, I'm going off the reservation, bitches." And
man, he really hasn't advanced in his career, but he wields a lot of power these days.
He's still assistant director after all these years.
Yeah, I want to see a spinoff that's just his relationship with Kirsch.
Yeah, at this point, where's Kirsch, man?
Kirsch turned good in the finale.
Yeah, where's White Hat Kirsch, man? Anyway, so yeah, at this point, Skinner should just go run a Dairy Queen because man, the FBI gives him no respect. Anyway, that's the plot, and it's garbage.
Wait, no, that wasn't the plot. That was the first 5 minutes.
No, that was the whole show, Jack.
See, I'm getting confused because nothing fucking happened in this show.
Okay,
so here's the problem.
It was still incredibly rushed, though. Nothing happened, and yet they didn't have enough time for it to properly land.
Yeah. It's so strange. It's like they jam-packed 5 minutes of content into an hour-long show.
And yet accomplished nothing.
Right. So, and here's another problem. It's strange because I see people saying, well, that episode wasn't so good, but at least it was great seeing Mulder and Scully back together. Their chemistry was hot. It's like, no. They both looked like they wanted to be anywhere but the set. On that, like their first encounter.
I think Gillian Anderson's wig glue was probably making her high.
No, she decided to forego a wig in this one very famously.
No, she's wearing a wig.
Really? I thought she just went because it looked kind of blondish.
No, they just botched the wig. She couldn't dye her hair red again because she'd been dyeing it back and forth so much.
Oh, see, I heard about that, and so I thought that they just went blonde because her hair just kind of looks blondish. They just did a really shitty wig job then.
Yep.
Okay. Well, wow. Well done, X-Files crew. I made this. No, but the problem is, like, these scenes the dialogue is so stilted. Chris Carter wrote this. He's a fucking hack. He's
famous for his purple prose, and he doesn't really write naturalistic dialogue.
Oh, it's so stilted. And
if you go back and look at the first 9 episodes, the ones that are the best by Chris Carter are the ones that are co-written by Frank Spotnitz.
Well, I don't think Frank Spotnitz helped out on this one.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, this has Carter all over it. Also, I have a lot of difficulty just tying scenes together, just basic character motivations from scene to scene.
Oh, like it was all over the map.
It's strange. Like I feel like I've stroked out for a minute and a half, and I missed a really important scene where people moved from point A to point C. But like I don't remember point B. What happened?
Yeah, at one point, like Mulder was chilling with Feta, and Scully came, and then all of a sudden Glenn Beck showed up.
Yeah, okay. So I was worried. I really genuinely thought I missed something there because and before that, Mulder calls Scully and then refuses to tell her why he called or what it's about or where he is. And says, I can't do this over the phone, and hangs up. Scully, meanwhile, is coming back from a date with Glenn Beck, and she's in his limo. She asks the driver to let her out on the sidewalk so that she can get out and continue her phone conversation. Glenn Beck gets out. Like, why did she get out of the car for this phone call? I don't understand any of this.
No.
It just... Oh, and by the way, this just occurred to me. She got out to have her phone call after Glenn Beck told her that the only safe place to have a conversation is in my car.
Yeah.
None of this fucking show made sense. And then it ends. Oh, there's a UFO, by the way, that Mulder touches and immediately thinks is fake, or it's not alien technology. But it's a soup of scenes.
That's why Joe McHale is in it.
I would have preferred to see him play himself as the host of the soup in this show than as Glenn Beck.
The host of the soup is just really into aliens, and he wants to talk to Mulder.
Right. Yeah, all he plays is clips from Ancient Aliens over and over and over.
They even reference Ancient Aliens a bit when they said, even in biblical times, aliens visited. But then they say it was the H-bomb that drew, or it was the atomic bomb that drew aliens to Earth in 1945. So
that's so dumb because like we know that they were literally ancient aliens in like Neanderthal times.
Right. The black oil. Yeah,
that was what the whole movie was about. Yeah. Like,
so it clearly Chris Carter didn't like remember his own mythology.
I feel like they're really picking and choosing what they want to be canon, which to me, here's the problem. You have two potential audiences for this show. There are diehard fans and there are new people. Yeah. What they're doing by picking and choosing is confusing one segment and pissing off another.
And I feel like they're too concerned about getting this going again as a viable property when they should just be concerned about giving the X-Files a proper conclusion, at least the original mythology. If they land that and it's successful, then do Monsters of the Week all you want afterwards.
Well, honestly, after seeing this kind of double header, I really sort of I would have preferred to have seen just Monsters of the Week because whatever the hell they want to do with this mythology is asinine.
It is, but okay. I don't have as much to say about the second episode that we just saw.
Well, let me make one more comment about the first one.
Okay.
The way that I think one of the fundamental problems is, I said it doesn't hang together. The scenes don't, and the character motivations are they're not even transparent. They don't really exist. Like, none of these people are operating as logical human beings, which kind of sets it apart from the second episode. But it's as if someone knew a lot of elements that one would expect to see when they sit down to watch an episode of The X-Files, and they kind of strung those together. It's filled with catchphrases from the layman would recognize.
Oh yeah.
And there are just bizarre things like you expect to see Mulder and Skinner have an antagonistic relationship. So despite the fact that Skinner is the one who called Mulder to come investigate this thing, he's immediately like barking at Skinner and getting up in his face. Like, why? He's the guy who called you here, Mulder.
By the way, why is the X-Files office still empty with the poster on the floor? Like, you would think a government building like that, like they would use their resources. It wouldn't be empty for 14 years.
I hope the next thing Skinner did was send an email to facilities to fire that janitor.
And by the way, we saw Reyes take the pencils out of the ceiling in season 9. The pencils are still in there. That's a fucking continuity error.
No, those were restored by the same historical sticklers society that restored the Apollo lander to the moon in Futurama.
Or maybe Doggett. Doggett just did it behind her back to piss her off one day.
Yeah. I found out what happened to my son. I can't get him back. I can chase super soldiers, or I can put these pencils in the ceiling.
That's where I worked out his aggression. Second episode was a lot better. And it was written by, which of the writers wrote it?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Glenn Morgan or James Wong?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it was only one of them, but it was actually more about the mythology than I thought. I thought it was going to be at first. I thought it was just going to be a Monster of the Week, and it turned out to really tie into, I guess, the story arc they're pursuing. But it was in an interesting way, and kind of did a mystery. The characters immediately gained 50 IQ points between this and the last episode. It felt like Mulder and Scully again. And what's more is I didn't really even care the contrived circumstances that got them back in the X-Files working under Skinner in the FBI.
Right.
I could just, at that point, I was just like, fuck you, mythology. And I've never been like that before, but I was like, fuck you, mythology. I'm just going to enjoy this X-Files episode. And I had a good time.
Yeah. That's kind of, I had to sort of think through how to approach this one because I get what 1001 was trying to do.
1001? Yeah, I was like, it's 1013, Chad.
Season 10, episode 1, 10x01. I get what it was trying to do. And I know that that's no fault of this episode, so 1002. So I'm going to enter this episode as if the first one succeeded in its goals. It reestablished the X-Files as a thing in which Mulder and Scully work at the FBI. Okay, that's that. If I'll just agree to that premise.
It's a shit premise, but okay.
It's stupid. It makes no sense, but I don't want that to bring down the potential enjoyment of some good episodes.
Yeah, this season is built on a house of cards, a hacky house of cards that doesn't hold up under modern television viewing scrutiny, but okay.
Yeah.
If it'll give us some good episodes not written by Chris Carter, at the very least, I can accept that. And this episode was good. It had its laughable moments, I think, but
There were the frequent use of not dream sequences but imagination sequences was a little strange.
Yeah. What Mulder and Scully need is a holodeck, I think. That
great.
way they could live out their fantasies about having not given up their son. But I think I don't like. We have an explanation for William that sufficed. I don't think we need to really harp on this again. Like, oh, is he an alien? Is he going to turn into an alien? Is he going to be abducted by aliens? Was he done by genetic experiments done by the government? It's just so tired.
I didn't have that much of a problem with the Williams stuff because
I didn't. It gave emotional weight to the characters. It actually gave them some pathos and not just whatever was at the whim of the writer.
Yeah, because that was the strangest thing about the whole William saga. William is the child of ostensibly Mulder and Scully,
named after both their fathers, apparently.
Right, and basically Scully
because Chris Carter is a hack who can't come up with two different names for the father figure.
Well, neither can Mulder and Scully apparently. Well, I guess they're getting that from him. Basically, Scully gives him up for anonymous adoption, but the way that Mulder and Scully always kind of acted about William was cold and like kind of alien in an ironic way.
Maybe they're the aliens,
right? It's just like their son is just a non-entity, and so it was a little ballsy, honestly, for this Monster of the Week episode to actually deal with that topic, and the fact that they addressed it head on and the characters behaved like human beings and not these weird Chris Carter robots.
And it gives
really
me
cool.
hope. It gives me hope that the Monsters of the Week have kind of evolved to catch up to modern TV viewing. Mm-hmm. Because I love the Monsters of the Week of the original series, but my biggest complaint was that they always felt disconnected from what was actually going on with the main narrative of the show.
But that was intentional.
But I think TV audiences have matured to the point where we can accept that you can have this mostly unrelated story that still is concerned about what's happening with the show itself. Yeah. So I'm hoping that each Monster of the Week will deal with this and help give us some clarity about where these characters are in their lives.
Yeah, that's sort of what Fringe wound up doing over time. You know, it started with a very kind of Monster of the Week focused premise, but then it even retroactively made those Monsters of the Week part of the mythology, but still sort of each episode was still kind of self-contained until the end game of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have anything else about the second episode to say. It was. I like that it was a mystery that actually played out, and it wasn't just a bunch of freeform, like conspiracy rambling that we're supposed to believe without any evidence. But okay,
yeah, it was like watching two different shows. I would rate this episode as like an okay episode from the original run. Like one that if I were doing a casual rewatch, I would not skip like I would that episode with the gargoyles, Grotesque.
Yeah, or the one with Tony Shalhoub.
Right. In his pre-Monk days.
I do hear the next episode is written by Darren Morgan, my favorite writer of the original series, the comedy writer, and I hear it is like a series highlight, like a series as in the first 9 seasons. It is like apparently an absolute new classic, and I can't wait for it. So I'm looking forward to that. After that, we'll see.
Yeah,
but
I feel like we're doing a disservice to the second episode after just like shitting all over the first one, because I was finding myself, despite myself, kind of engaged in it. I mean, there were, I feel like we shouldn't, don't need to give equal time, but I do want to heap a little bit more praise on this one. On episode 2.
It was fine. It was still... I feel like I need some time because I feel like the mythology is still too confused and muddled now for me to really, I don't know, view it on its own merits versus like...
I'm kind of giving up on the mythology.
I feel like I can't yet, and I feel like part of my brain is always going to try to have it make sense. So
I feel like it... as I said earlier, I will be unable to enjoy the other episodes if I'm basically just kind of looking at Chris Carter X-Files as its own. It's kind of its own little thing off to the side, and give it a pat on the head, and good job.
Kind of like how people are viewing the Star Wars prequels now. Well, yeah, they happened, but we don't really
another George Lucas allegory.
Yeah, we don't really have to view them as hard canon.
Yeah, it's certainly not Rogue Squadron levels of canon, but I know.
I did promise that we'd bring it back around to Donkey Kong before the end.
No, be my guest.
So if this is the Donkey Kong Country Returns of the X-Files, I would say the first episode was Donkey Kong Country Returns. The second episode was Tropical Freeze. I would say.
Oh, well, those are pretty extreme
okay,
examples.
Okay, maybe the first episode was Donkey Konga 2, and the second episode was Returns. Maybe next week is Tropical Freeze.
Maybe. Okay, that's a little more fair because Returns is nowhere near. Returns is not just like an audiovisual abortion. Like, like the first episode was.
Although it should be pointed out, Professor Chops does have some extreme right-leaning views, especially about gun control. So.
Yeah, that's the narrative they wouldn't let Retro Studios tell.
When he shoots you, it's gonna hurt.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.